causes no harm and commonly has good intent. And I fully understand the purpose of the bill is to keep harm from happening. There is absolutely good intent behind the bill, and I don't have a problem with the intent there. But I believe what it does is it lumps together the good guys and the bad guys. And I would love to have an exception similar to the one that we have at the front of the airports. You know, if you have a license holder who accidentally has, I mean, even, yes, there are the signs and everybody knows you're not supposed to take guns past security, but I know there are even legislators who have accidentally made that mistake, and we now have a law that says that, you know, if you accidentally have your gun there and you're caught, and that gun is found, that handgun is found, if you have a license to carry, you can actually exit without a penalty. And so that's the type of exception that I would like to see added to this bill, just to avoid lumping together people who there's obvious cause to believe do not have bad intent. The argument is put forward that we should have this passed in the state law as a mirror, I believe, of federal law. I think we can all agree we shouldn't just pass state law solely for the reason that it exists in federal law. So let's also have a good reason. I'm just not seeing that this particular law actually fulfills its stated purpose. A piece of paper or words in paper or words in law do not actually keep criminals from doing something. What it does is it keeps the law-abiding from, in this case, from possibly having a weapon to defend themselves, where it penalizes them. It puts a state law there penalizing them. And so that's the reason that we're opposing. But again, I would love to be able to work with the bill author and those working on it to provide some kind of way out for those who obviously have good intent and who are not, so we avoid criminalizing an action that is not causing harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls Mr. C.J. Grisham. Chair calls Mr. C.J. Grisham. Grisham, I want to remind you of this.
No, sir. Welcome back. My name is C.J. Grisham. I am the president and founder, and I'm representing Open Carry Texas and myself in opposition to this bill. I'm not going to repeat what Ms. Malone just said because that's not me, is it? Where was I? Oh, I'm not going to repeat what Rachel said. So, I mean, I'm not going to come up here and regurgitate that. I'm going to tell you that our opposition to the bill is, quite frankly, what this does, if we want to boil it down, is it expands gun-free zones. And if a person has no ill intent other than to stop bad guys, this bill is not going to do anything other than make victims out of even more people. It's going to criminalize more people that have no evil intent and no criminal intent. So we oppose this bill, and I oppose this bill on a personal level because, first of all, I don't think we should have any gun-free zones to begin with. We still have issues in airports, and now you're taking resources from the, potentially from the FAA, not the FFA, the FAA, the ATF. God, airport guys. I even have a TSA. So many acronyms. You're taking resources away from an already stretched TSA, and now they're going to have to cover even more ground as it is. Whereas, obviously, if we're going to legislate because of there's people out there that might do something wrong, and I know there are some people on this committee that might like this, well, then let's just ban all guns everywhere all of the time. And let's just keep people from even going into public because they might commit a crime if they go out there. Let's prevent them from going grocery shopping because they might shoot somebody or they might hit somebody or they might kick someone in the shins. Let's prevent them from going outside and mowing their lawn because a neighbor might come out and say something. I mean, you know, if we say because there are bad people that good people need to be restricted, well, then that's just bad policy as it is. And so on freedom purposes, I oppose this bill. It should die a horrible, tragic death. Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry. You're doing my job for me.
All right. Oh, no? Yes, no.
Chair calls Mr. Rick Briscoe. Rick, I'd like your time.
Thank you, sir.
This evening.
Mr. Chairman, members, I am Rick Briscoe. I am the legislative director of Open Ferry, Texas, representing that organization and myself in opposition to the bill. We have several concerns, one of which is the overbred or potential overbred as it applies to general aviation and common carriers operating out of areas generally considered to be general aviation, some of the so-called puddle jumpers. There used to be an outfit called Crown Air that flew general aviation type aircraft out of Lubbock to service an air base at eastern New Mexico. And quite literally, they flew out of the very same corner of the airport that general aviation flew out of. I've personally picked up friends at airports where they've flown in for rifle matches or go hunting and had all of their paraphernalia. And we just believe that there needs to be an escape when people are not doing anything wrong that may have run afoul of some technical rule. Now, the other thing we're concerned about is federal law. To the best of my recollection, the oath of office of the Texas Commission of Peace Officers is to enforce the laws of the state of Texas and the United States of America. And I just having trouble wrapping my head around the idea that they have to turn someone loose because they violated federal law. I question if that's the case. A number of states have what they call equitable jeopardy. And under federal law, as policy under the Department of Justice, they do not ordinarily prosecute an individual under federal law for an offense arising out of the same set of facts.
Rick, I'm going to interrupt you just to tell you, we'll give you another minute.
There's where the light is.
All right. I'll give you another minute, 2 weeks, how's that?
Yes, sir. To avoid a situation which is not a technical violation of double jeopardy under the law is an individual may not be twice prosecuted for the same offense by the same sovereign. The state and federal government being different sovereigns is a distinction lost on much of the public. And we think that that sort of policy should apply not just to this law, but any laws that duplicate federal law. Additionally, TSA is, under the present circumstances, overtasked. We're concerned about diluting them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Mr. Briscoe? No?
Thank you.
Our next witness is Jerry Patterson.
Oh, I didn't even see him behind us.
Good, how are you?
Good seeing you again.
Mr. Chairman, members, would be my state rep if I still lived where I used to live. Currently is my state rep, so I get around, I guess. I'm here, I'm Jerry Patterson. I'm Jerry Patterson. I'm here to testify in favor of the bill. I represent no one other than myself. And I'll start out by saying I'm fairly knowledgeable on the subject. I have 2,000 hours in Phantoms and both flying into GA locations and also locations that were the terminals like we're talking about. I have some knowledge of gun laws, having written a fair amount of the gun laws. In the past, I opposed this bill. The first version I saw cast a blanket essentially over the entire airport property that didn't exist prior to that. Later, that blanket was shrunken a little bit, but still would have impacted general aviation. And when I say general aviation, and this is something that might need to be clarified, but I can include in that general aviation description anything that is not a scheduled airline. That could be corporate, that could be chartered, that could be Cessna 150, it could be private pilot, whatever it may be. And it's my understanding that GA, as I just described it, is exempted from this bill based upon where it may park. What that would mean is that if a scheduled airline terminal had a GA aircraft that parked there, then that GA aircraft would be exempt, is my understanding, and it's also my hope. I oppose past bills because of their effect on general aviation, but I support this bill because that has been remedied. I also would like to note that there's another issue here. If you fly commercial and if you have a firearm, and if, as I do, you put it in a hard-sided lock container, insert it into your bag, and check it at the counter. Some airlines, at least have been my experience in the past, will mark that bag with a flag of some sort to say there's a gun in here, which is, to my view, pretty damn stupid. Because if you have somebody who's intending to steal that firearm just to be stealing it and selling it or keep it for themselves, or to use that firearm in commission of a criminal offense, you've just told them where to look among thousands of bags. You got this with a big yellow ribbon that says, here's a gun that you need. So I think this would also possibly limit theft out of baggage in the baggage handler aspect of it. The one thing I do would like to see in this bill, and I think Ms. Malone with GOA mentioned that, is some kind of either defense to prosecution or some kind of exception or some kind of second look if someone actually would be trying to venture into this area and accidentally had a firearm in their truck. Say they're delivering something. They're not an employee of anybody that works in that area. They're delivering something and they happen to have a firearm in the truck. It might be helpful, I think, and maybe even move the bill faster if that exception were addressed. I will say, though, that the earlier comment about general aviation, I think Mr. Briscoe, I don't think that applies in that case, because as I understand it, wherever that GA aircraft parks becomes a GA area. And if for some reason the GA side of the airport were to be crowded to where an aircraft had to park on the commercial side, I believe the GA exception would apply. But I think this is a reasonable bill, and I support it with those comments, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Commissioner Patterson? Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
See you back there.
Mr. John Taylor, you still here?
Yes, sir.
We need you. Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can you just repeat your name, position on the bill, and the group you may represent if you testify?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It expands gun-free zones.
I am representing myself in DFW Airport, and they represent. Yes, sir.
So I gotta be totally honest with you. I really kind of like the idea that Gun Owners of America has about some sort of exception, because I'm guessing you'll run into people periodically that might bring a gun on there that you know is accidental. If that were to happen right now under this law, or if the feds had that happen, does that exception exist, or do you have the authority to say, hey, we get it, you have a license to carry, whatever the situation is, it was under your seat, you didn't expect to come here today, and you know that person accidentally brought that there. What happens at that point right now, or if this bill passes?
I would mirror that to the land side. If a license holder goes to the screening checkpoint and the weapon is in their bag, they forget that there's a weapon in their bag.
So what would happen?
It would be called. We would run the person, investigate, and if they're a licensed to carry holder, they have the ability to go move away from that checkpoint and go store their weapon in order to fly if they want to continue travel.
Okay.
And going back to this definition, that is the secured part of an airport.
Okay.
So if that were to be added into language for this bill, I'm not opposed to allowing someone who's legally, just like we are at the checkpoints, to go back.
Because
But I will say, if I may,
yes.
there are so many different steps to get to that point.
Right.
And in my opinion only, if you show up and you see a sign, no weapons allowed. If you're asked,
No, you'd be able to go to the baggage area. This has to do with the tarmac
are you aware of
and
this rule?
other areas
No weapons are allowed.
inside a secure zone.
And then they ask the questions again and they make sure they have their badge, swipe the badge. It is my assumption that if they were out there on the AOA, I would assume that there is a weapon. Because all of these things, they have the opportunity, and if they were to answer affirmative, or yes, I do have a weapon in my vehicle, they are given the same opportunity to return to where they came from and store that weapon safely before being allowed to go on to the AOA.
Okay.
So, did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? There being none, Representative, or Chairman, I should say, will you come up here and close on your bill, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you heard from Commissioner Patterson's testimony, this was a byproduct of a lot of thought and a lot of feedback. In fact, the exceptions in the bill were developed in consultation with the NRA and the Texas State Rifle Association. There are two main exceptions. Obviously, if you have checked your bags and for travel, but somehow come into possession of them because there is no air bridge or sky bridge, and you are walking on a tarmac with those checked bags, that is covered by exceptions. That's not an issue under this bill. If you've gone through the AOA, you will have passed through the 7 different steps and checks to get onto the AOA, and you still have the opportunity to return your weapon to your vehicle at that point, if in fact you have made a mistake and forgot it. And then if you're, the other important exception is if you're authorized already to carry a weapon on the AOA, then that is exempted by the bill itself. So those are important protections that we've developed over time with the feedback of stakeholders. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Paul, thank you for giving us the opportunity to set this out. This bill came from law enforcement and the experts in the field, and we are being responsive with such important aviation assets.
Oh, okay. Responsive to law enforcement, not liberty.
No further objection. House Bill 1168 is pending at this time. Thank you. The chair calls. This time the chair lays out House Bill 2325 and recognizes Representative Metcalf to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
Chairman, you have a committee substitute?
Yes.
Chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 2378.
Here, I'm gonna go out and talk about this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Following Hurricane Harvey in 2017, Governor Abbott commissioned a report on the effects of the storm and how we can improve the committee substitute to House
All right. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what that bill was about, because you didn't get to hear the beginning of it. I was actually in Briscoe Kane's office when they called it, so I missed the early part. Hang on one second. I'm looking at all the bills today. Okay. All right, so anyway, that was, oh, geez, I got really dizzy just now. Oh, crap, I'm gonna sit down. So that was House Bill 1168 by Anchia, and what that bill does is it expands gun-free zones to include, so right now you can't go into a secure area at a commercial airport, and that includes the tarmac area and stuff like that. However, the law does not apply to, for example, like general aviation areas or other parts of tarmac that might be separate facilities, but still have access if they wanted to the main terminal and the main airport. So these are like the private terminals and things like that. So what this does is it expands the law to ensure that all of the airport is off limits to licensed gun owners. So it like I said, it expands gun-free zones. I don't think the current gun-free zones at the airport as they are should be a gun-free zone. So that's why we oppose this bill, which would just expand that to add even more parts of an airport. Even if it's not accessible to most people, it would apply to contractors, it would apply to other planes and things like that, except of course for the general aviation planes. So that's what that bill is about. It's House Bill 1168 from Anchia. I don't care how good a bill sounds, and I don't care how justified the reasoning might be for a bill. If it's a gun-free zone, there's no justification for that at all, and I'm going to oppose it. And it has nothing to do with whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. What it has to do with is liberty. And we either believe that gun-free zones work, or we believe that gun-free zones don't work. And as I've said in the past, there's only one place that I support a gun-free zone, and that's in prison and jail. All right, in prison and jail, that's it. That's the only place that people should not have rights, because they don't have freedom. When you're in jail, you don't have freedom, so you shouldn't have rights, right? And it's justified at that point, for the most part. So if it's not jail, it's not prison, I'm not going to support it. And I know that sounds extremist, but this is where you separate the wheat from the chaff. This is where you find out who truly believes in liberty and who believes that liberty is subjected to what sounds good or to what might be a good idea. You really find out who truly believes in liberty, and you know, freedom is dangerous. I would rather live in a dangerously free society than a safe society of slavery where the government controls everything. So that's what this bill is about. It's 1168. And really, if you really want to know what a bill is about, look who the author is. And if Anchia is the author of the bill, it is probably an anti-gun bill. You don't even have to read it. You can just say, oh, Anchia put this up there, anti-gun. So, but I wanted to explain that. So nothing changes as far as, for example, right now, and I do this all the time. When I go to pick somebody up at the airport, I open carry a gun to the baggage claim. I open carry to the counter. I open carry all the way up to the gate where my family member will, you know, go to get on the plane into the secure area. So you can still carry a firearm, even under this bill, you would still be able to carry a firearm into the non-secure areas. But once you go into the secure area that's either fenced off or behind security, you still can't. And this bill just expands to other areas in the airport. We've got 2 other bills that we're supposed to testify against today. So make sure that you subscribe below and also click the notification bell. Once those other bills get started, I will also go live with